That first piano lesson is crucial. We want it to be fun and inviting for the student so they think piano is fun. We want it to be productive so the parents think we know what we're doing and it's worth their money. It's a lot of pressure. Hey, if we haven't met yet, I'm Phoenix and I'm the tattooed piano teacher. And in this video, we're going to talk about how to make that first lesson just perfect for everybody. We'll talk about what to do to prepare before the lesson begins, how those first few moments of the lesson should go, and what activities to include in the first lesson, and how to end the lesson to have them begging to come back the next week. Be sure to stick around to the end of this video because I feel like how you end the first lesson almost more important than the beginning and the middle of the first lesson. But we're gonna start before the lesson even begins. Do your homework. How old is this student? Have they had any music experience before? What grade are they in? Do they have any special needs? Have they taken lessons before? Do they have a piano at home? Do mom or dad play? Do not go in blind. The more you know before that lesson, the less you're going to be fumbling around trying to find the right activity or book in the first lesson. You can look really prepared and polished because you're going to know exactly what books to get ready. You're going to know exactly what activities to prepare for. Now, if you are teaching a first lesson to a transfer student, in other words, a student who has taken piano lessons with another teacher previously, then I have a video specifically about that first lesson with a transfer student, so you might want to check that out there. This video is going to be more geared towards a first lesson with a student who has not taken piano lessons prior. All right, you did your homework and it is time for that first lesson. The first few moments should feel so welcoming. I want you to greet this student. Now, understand that if you have a busy schedule, the student might show up quite early for their first lesson. They've probably never driven to your studio before and they're excited about it. They might show up even 15, I've even had 20 minutes early. So if that doesn't work for you and you're not going to be able to give them the greeting that's welcoming, then make sure you let them know, please come right on time or 5 minutes early or whatever works for you. But if they do come early, because sometimes they do even if you ask them not to, then make sure that you drop everything and welcome that student. I would say even if it means interrupting your current lesson, it's important that that first impression as they're walking in the door is super welcoming and inviting. Part of this might be letting them know before they even drive to the first lesson where they should park, where they go in. What do they do when they get to the door? Do they walk in? Do they knock? Do they ring the doorbell? Do they text you? Don't let anything cause them anxiety because that's going to be the feeling that they associate with your studio. Make sure they know exactly what to do and that upon arrival, they immediately feel welcomed. You're there with a wave and a smile, showing them exactly where to go, even if they're super early and it kind of interrupts the flow of your day. You can always let them know later, please don't show up that early, but just at this first lesson, we're going to forgive and forget. All right, so you've greeted them with a smile, the student knows where to go and the parent knows where to go, and it's time for their lesson to start. Make sure that the student knows that they should sit on the bench if that's what you want them to do, because they might feel like, do I go to the bench? Do I not? Again, eliminate any anxiety. But honestly, I like to start away from the piano because if they've never played the piano before, that might be a little intimidating that they are sitting in the spotlight on the bench, almost like they're expected to play something and they don't know how to play something. So if they're a shy student, especially starting away from the bench can be a little more comfortable. If you're able to get down on the floor with a younger student, that is usually like go where they're comfortable. If they're an older student, they're probably going to want to sit in a chair or a couch, but away from the piano is a great place to start. For most students, I like to start with a game. With younger students, this is really easy to do because anything that feels like a game is immediately like they're your best friend. It's gonna be a big hit. One of my favorite activities to do with younger students on their very first lesson is to get these bingo chips and label them with the finger numbers, right or left, 1 through 5, and then I hide those 10 bingo chips around the studio. This is a great way to kind of show the student and the parents around the studio. It's a great time to answer some initial questions or ease some, anxiety about what's going on in the first few moments of the lesson, because the student is occupied looking all around trying to find those bingo chips. I also find that for little kids, it's a great way to introduce the boundaries of your studio. Like if there's a certain part of the studio you don't want them touching or you don't want them going into that part, you can say there's nothing to find in there. In fact, students don't go in that part. You can gently let them know the studio rules as they're finding the bingo chips. Once they gather all the bingo chips, then we are going to trace their hands on a piece of paper, and then we will figure out together where all those bingo chips are going to land. And so here you go. You've already taught them the finger numbers. This is an activity that they can do at home if you want to send them home with the bingo chips, or you can start the next few lessons with this activity. They're really going to look forward to it. They're going to remember, oh yeah, as soon as I get in the door, I get to play hide and seek. How fun is that? Now, you'd be surprised how older students still get into finding things that are hidden. But if you do have an older student, you feel like this is too juvenile of an opening game for them, then you can play another sort of game, like a listening game. You could listen for highs and lows. You could listen to some different genres of music. And especially with a teen student, they're probably really into music. Pull up some Spotify playlists and play them some things. Play them for Elise and see if they'll be like, oh, I know that. They're going to be really excited. Start to open up to you. Play them some metal. Play them some hip hop. As long as there's no swears, right? Just get into their world and see what excites them and kind of see what lights them up, because music is the universal language after all. You can even start to talk about some musical concepts, just listening to some music for fun. So it's a great way to start a lesson as well. You could also do some sort of ear training, test, but don't make it a test, make it a game. You can play it back and forth with a preteen or a teen student. That is fun to do. Or you could do some sort of rote assignment, teaching them Twinkle Twinkle Little Star right off the bat can be a really fun thing to do too, or maybe a different song with an older student. So those are some ideas. If you want some tangible games that are printed on paper and the instructions are right there for you, I have a video highlighting my books that are the piano skill set books, and we have a pre-reading level which is designed for beginning students. There's lots of games printed right into those books, and so if you want to check out that, you can check out the pre-reading video right here. So once we've broken the ice with a game, now it's time to do a short little interview session. So the goal of the interview session is to find a connecting link. You might have already done this in the game time, but to just find something that connects you to the student so that they feel like they can open up a little bit. So the interview session can be a great time to try to get them to open up. And if the parents have been talking to you a lot during the game time, kind of interrupting the lesson with their questions and stuff, this can be a time to move the focus to the student and have the parents take a backseat. For the longest time, I was using the same worksheet for all of my students when I interviewed them, and I created it on Word 20 years ago. So I just recently updated my interview worksheets. They're super fun and colorful. I have them for younger kids, for older kids, and then for teens and adults. So if you want to check those out, there's a link in the description. Those are a really easy way to just print it out. It's going to teach them the music basics, find out what they already know, talk about their life a little bit in a super fun way that doesn't just feel like a cold interview. At the end of the interview, you should have a good idea of what books this student is going to need. And so now you're going to show them their books, which is a very exciting moment. You pull them off the shelves or you pull them out of the cubby and say, these are your books. How exciting. At this point, you can crack open the lesson book, teach them a couple of songs, some skills, some concepts, posture, whatever you usually do, or whatever is in the first few pages of your book. But I will say a lot of method books tend to start with a lot of teaching and talking and pictures of posture, and it's a little dry. So make sure that you do get to a song, at least one song in that first lesson, so that they have something to go home and play. This is super important. Don't just talk the entire first lesson. Make sure they have something that they can remember how to do, that they can do every day at home. Even more ideal would be a few songs. The reason we want to do this from lesson number 1 is they have the biggest enthusiasm and momentum as far as at-home practice goes that they will ever have, because they have just started. They are pumped for piano. They will practice an hour a day if you tell them to, right? They are primed. If you don't have anything for them to practice, then you are losing out on this momentous occasion to build a at-home practice setup and a daily routine. So make sure that they know this is a song or songs you're going to practice every single day at home. This is the time when at-home practice is actually exciting, so make sure you take advantage of that. Now, if you have no idea what books to use or you're looking for some fresh ideas in the piano method department, I do have a video all about my favorite books for beginners. I actually have a lot of different method book reviews on this channel, so head over to the channel, check out the piano method playlist, and go from there. All right, now we have come to the end of the first lesson, and like I said at the beginning of this video, this is the most important part to send them off feeling like they made the right choice and that they are excited to come back the next week. Before I let you know how the end of your lesson should go, make sure you hit that like button if you're enjoying this content, you like piano teacher tips, and you want more videos like this. So first of all, let me tell you, do not teach up until the last second of the first lesson. I know, I do it too. It's like that first lesson, no matter how long it is, it's never long enough. But do not teach up until the last second. The parents might have questions. You don't know how slow this student is going to be getting out the door. Now, hopefully you have some free time after the first lesson. That's always nice. But if you have another lesson planned and you have to get done on time, then make sure you leave yourself a buffer. I don't think anybody is going to be too upset if you end that first lesson a little bit early on accident because there weren't any questions. I would leave that buffer of time at the end for questions. And you want to make sure that they're not feeling rushed out the door, that they feel like the end of the lesson is just as welcoming and inviting as the beginning of the lesson so that they feel like they want to come back. On the way out, here's what you're going to do. Pick out your best cheesy music-related joke. Tell them the joke on the way out. And then tell them, I want you to tell me a joke as soon as you walk in the door at our next lesson. Tell them when the next lesson is, remind them they're gonna play their songs every day, and then say, find a joke and tell me when you come back in. They will love this. It will be their favorite part of the assignment. They're gonna think about it, they're gonna find a joke, and then they're gonna think about that next lesson the whole week through. In fact, you could do this at every lesson, or at least for the first month, just to get them excited about coming back. So those are my tips. Now I know these were kind of general tips that were supposed to apply to sort of all ages, but if you'd be interested in like a specific lesson plan for a specific age group at their first lesson, then let me know in the comments. If I get enough comments about a particular age group, I would be happy to make a specific video all about that. And remember to grab those first lesson interview worksheets for a super easy, fun, no prep way to get your students engaged and try to connect with them at that first lesson. If you want to keep watching, here's that video I mentioned earlier about the first lesson tips for a transfer student. You'll definitely find some tips that are different from this video. So if you put the two together, you're going to be the best teacher possible at that first lesson. I wish you all the success in the world, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more piano teacher tips. I'll see you on the next video.